All right, so why don't we start with, in your own time, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, cool. Well, my name's Renee Sanchez. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, and my wife and I relocated up here about going on 4 years ago. We bought a place out here in Graham, and the first year we got here is the first year we attended SideFest.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going back ever since. That was my first year as an attendee. I hadn't moved up to the rank of vendor yet. I didn't do that until the following year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So talk about that. Like what drew you to SideFest, which again will be happening this Saturday, July 27th at the Kent Commons Community Center. What drew you there to begin with?
Well, I mean, I've always been a big Transformers fan. I started out watching a lot of anime when I was really young. One of the first shows that I really got turned on to was Battle of the Planets, which is it's known as Gatchaman in
Mm-hmm.
Japan, and Science Team Gatchaman. And that's kind of the thing that kind of started me off. And after that, I just kind of got into anything Japanese related, Shogun Warriors, Speed Racer, Godzilla. I'm a huge Toho freak.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've been collecting movies and memorabilia practically my entire life. I'm 45 now, mm-hmm. and I started right around 5 years old.
Very cool. And, quick side tangent, before, we'll get to talking about Transformers in a few here. But obviously, I'm sure you saw the news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con that the Russo brothers of, Marvel's Avengers fame will be producing and possibly directing a Battle of the Planets feature. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw a little bit on it. I didn't read the entire article, but that kind of piqued my interest. I was like, wow. I mean, I know a few years ago, TBS, I think they were the original holders of the copyright for the American distribution mm-hmm. of Battle of the Planets and Eagle Riders and all that stuff. They tried to do a couple of soft reboots, but nothing came of it. So seeing the Russo brothers attached to something like that, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's an incredible pedigree. And basically they can write their own check in Hollywood. They could do whatever they want, and I think it's really cool that they're focusing on a beloved but also kind of obscure property. I was
just going to say that. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few people that are aware of it, but they don't really know a lot about it. Recently, I think it was last year for Christmas, my wife got me the Gatchaman Blu-ray box set.
Nice. And
that thing is just, the transfer on that is beautiful. I suggest anybody who's even got an inkling to learn about it, pick that thing up.
Very cool. So let's turn the topic back to Transformers and SideFest for just a minute here. So you mentioned earlier that when you were first checking out SideFest Northwest, you came into it as a fan and as a convention goer, but then eventually rose to the rank, unlocked the achievement of becoming a vendor. And I don't have it in front of me, but your vendor. What's the name of your vendor table?
I go by the name of Atomic Mariachi Robot.
That's what it was. I knew it was something really cool, but I just happened to I had too many tabs open, and I was like, I don't have it in front of me. But so kind of talk about some of the stuff you have and what it's like being a vendor at SideFest.
Oh man, when I started vending here, SideFest was the first show that I got a table at, and I've been going for the last 3 years as a vendor, and it's one of those things. It's the highlight for me for the entire season is that SciFest show. I've done a couple for the Fantasticon and what's the other one? The Greater Seattle Toy Show.
Right.
But those are all great shows, but my favorite, the one that brought me into the fold, is always going to be SciFest. I'm always going to have a love for that show, mainly because of my love of Transformers, my love of all things Japanese. But I'm always going to be there. If not as a vendor, I'm definitely going to be there every year as a supporter and just a general fan. It's a great place to go. This year, they just announced. I won't say just, but it's been part of the feature for this year is David Kaye, the voice of Megatron from Beast Wars and Beast Machines, and the dragon from The Night Begins to Shine from the Teen Titans Go show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I love that guy. I love his voice. I've been a big fan of David Kaye since Beast Wars.
Sure.
It's one of those things that it occurred during a time when we were having a serious Transformers drought. There really wasn't any real product until Beast Wars came back out, and they kind of went back to the basics there as far as the engineering of the toys, and it was just an amazing time to be a fan of Transformers, and then to have this really great story to go along with the figures that were coming out at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that David Kaye's performance in those media, it's just so iconic. All you got to do is hear a yes, and it's it's just iconic, as iconic as any of the G1 stuff. And it's you listen to like Frank Welker or oh my God, Peter Cullen.
Peter Cullen, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm
you
there
listen
with you.
to those voices, you know who they are. You know the characters. Same thing goes with David Kaye. It's like one time I was reading an art book somewhere about character design, character development. When you see the silhouette, when you hear the voice, and you know who the characters that they're attached to, then you've got something iconic. You've got something that's going to be around, people are going to remember for the rest of their lives. And David Kaye is one of those voices. You'll never forget it. He's always going to be Beast Wars Megatron for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And, springing off of that, we were talking about how this year's SciFest is going to be bigger and better than ever before. I mean, it's like I went last year and it was a cool show, and it was great getting to know a lot of folks in the Pacific Northwest Transformers collecting community. But this is like it's a full blown convention. I mean, there's panels, there's really great guests. It's like everything is stepped up in such a big bad way, so much so to where there's even so many activities where folks kind of have to kind of choose what they want to do, kind of that same legislation we all do when we go to conventions, and it's crazy exciting. Yeah,
I remember last year, and I remember the previous, at least the last 3 years, and this year is, I'm kind of blown away by the sheer power that's going behind this particular show, and it's only going to get better from here. At least I hope it does. But I'm thinking that this is probably going to be one of my last years as a vendor. I got a real job, got to be adult now.
Of course.
But so that's kind of cutting into my ability to, get out there and, look for deals and stuff for resale and things like that. But I'm always going to be going there, and to have been there before it got big and to see it grow, it's a really special thing. It's kind of like watching your kids grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good analogy with that. And so let me ask you. And we were kind of talking about this being one of your possibly your last turns at being a vendor. What kind of stuff do you got on the table this year? What's Atomic Mariachi Robot got in store for folks coming to Cybfest looking for some really cool stuff?
Well, I've got a lot of the current stock of Siege, War for Cybertron. I got quite a few pieces of that. I've got some Combiner Wars and Power to the Primes. What I think makes my table a little bit different, a little special, I try to stock stuff that's not necessarily specifically Transformers, but definitely has the that Japanese feel to it.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. One of my priorities was trying to get more vinyl Softbee action figures and toys out there, but it's getting really difficult nowadays to find that really quality merchandise to put up on the table for the resale market, especially when I want to keep it.
Yeah, exactly. And I would imagine, because me personally, I'm still kind of like in the, I haven't even gone full collector yet. It's like, I kind of see pieces as they come to me and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll pick that up. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So I haven't even gone full into that. And I think, So it's still kind of difficult for me to imagine going from like collector to vendor to where it's like, you're fighting with yourself almost for like what goes into the personal collection versus what you flip and turn and sell, and kind of keep the stock exciting for folks to come to the table and wheel and deal and buy stuff as well. That's got to be.
Yeah, that was the big thing, and me and my wife had decided when we first started doing it, hey, this is a really good way for me to thin out my collection, really prioritize what I'm going to keep. Because everything that I get, some of it I kind of fall out of love with.
Sure.
And I was just amassing this huge collection, and a lot of it was just not going to be displayed, or I wasn't going to do anything with. So we both decided, well, she does her collecting too. She's got her own specific things. She loves My Little Pony, nice. Snoopy, Game of Thrones, and stuff like that. So we decided we'd go through our own personal collections, curate it, and just kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were, and just really focus on what we wanted in our collections, and then everything else was going to go to resale. Well, you get to a certain point when you've almost sold everything you're going to get rid of out of your own personal stock, and then have to make a determination whether or not you're going to go full on and start getting, local retail and, the domestic stuff, or, are you going to go and start really getting some of that high-end stuff? I don't like to carry a lot of the high-end stuff, only because price is a real big factor, especially when you're going to these shows. You've got a lot of people going in there. They've only got a certain amount of money that they're willing to spend, and a lot of people like to make a deal.
Of course.
So I like to do a lot of secondhand stuff for that reason. And I've got tons of that stuff too. It's kind of one of those things. It's a fine line, because you don't want your table to end up looking like just your average garage sale or flea market.
Sure.
You really want to focus on what the show's offering and make sure that you're catering to that fan base, because those are the people that are coming to the show. They expect a certain quality, and they expect a certain aesthetic when they go there.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember I came by your table last year when I was at Cybfest as I was breezing through, and I think you nailed it, because like you have a really good variety of packaged brand new stuff, but also some like really cool maybe hard to find secondhand type of stuff. It's a very good variety.
There's always the third party, the fourth party knockoffs. And, in knowing the difference of what you have and what you're trying to offer people, and then at the same time, trying not to, throw sand in their eyes and you make them think they're buying something that, you want to be forthcoming and make sure they know what you're selling. And, it's all about being above board and making sure that the customer knows what they got. And that's kind of, I feel I have a responsibility, especially when you're dealing with the third party and fourth party stuff.
Right.
Of making sure that your customers that are coming to your table, they're giving you their hard-earned cash. They know exactly what they're buying from you. And there's some kids, they'll come in, they'll look at this really expensive piece. I hesitate to try to sell that to them. Mm-hmm. And, I'll talk to their parents or whatever, and I'll try to, get them to understand that may not necessarily be the best purchase for that particular person, given what we're doing there. It's about doing right by them and just giving them a little information too.
Absolutely. Well, and that's something that I've started to learn over the last few years. I'm kind of like lapsed in Transformers collecting. It's like I've been a fan of the fiction. Like I go back with the comic books all the way to the Dreamwave era. So it's like I followed it through Dreamwave and all through IDW. But I never really I dropped out with the toys, so I would see them kind of like in Fred Meyer when I would go, and I'd be like, oh, those are kind of cool, but I never really got into it. And third party was something that I had zero awareness about up until like 3 years ago, and I was like, oh, there's like this entire arm of adult high-end premium collecting that I had no idea about. And then you like you said, you get into like fourth party and KOs, and it's hard sometimes, I think, to kind of steer kids the right direction, because a lot of those third party figures, it's meant to be a premium adult collectible. So like, those swords can be really sharp, and there's a lot of stuff that's not to put too fine a point on it, not really safe for kids. And to say nothing about KOs, because a lot of that stuff probably comes from China. It's maybe rotten with lead paint or whatever, but but a lot of those, it's like and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like a lot of like KOs, especially like Masterpiece KOs, they're kind of made more for like, this is your display version. It's like you put it in robot mode, you set it on a shelf, and you never touch it ever again, because if you go to transform it, it's probably gonna shatter if you try to play with it.
Totally. I have two KL Masterpiece Sideswipes for that reason. Mm-hmm. I like this. Sideswipe's one of my favorite G1 characters. I loved him, the red Lambo, but I also loved him in bot mode. So I want to have him in a specific display situation, which means having him in car mode, having him in bot mode, and being, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to transform him. I pose him, I'll do my photography with him. Yeah. And then I'm happy. I'll put him away. When I get that itch again, I'll pull him out and I'll take some more pictures. And that's kind of what you need to do, because some of these, like you said, these fourth party KOs and such the quality isn't there.
Right.
And it is a more affordable alternative, but at the same time, you get what you pay for.
Exactly.
So if you're not aware of the kind of product that you're getting, a lot of times you're going to be really disappointed. And I really tried to educate myself on the kind of third-party pieces I'm getting, for resale, the kind of KOs, because there is a market out there for them. I'm one of the guys that buys KOs because I can't afford a $2,000 mint box G1 Optimus Prime.
Right.
You know, I'm perfectly happy with having a really good-looking Chinese KO of that same figure. It's on my shelf, and it gives me the same feeling I had when I was 10 years old and I got that figure.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. And yeah, some of those knockoffs are, reasonable enough facsimiles. And, this is kind of like a different thing, but I dig on crazy knockoffs, the ones where they're like, yellow Constructicons, or things like that. I like the really obscure ones that are just bonkers. So with that, we were kind of talking about certain things that we have and collect. There is a collector spotlight of you as Magnus von Braun out there on the Cybfest Northwest Facebook page, and I was wondering if you want to talk about your collection at all, because I just in the photo that's up, there's a great many pieces in there. I was wondering if you want to call out anything specific that's especially special.
Oh man, that's a good question, and I don't really, honestly, I don't know that I have an answer for it. I will say every piece that I get when I get it is my new favorite piece.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's like that for a few days. I'll take my pictures. I've got literally thousands of photographs of pictures on my Facebook page and in my Instagram of stuff that I just take all the time. It's not just Transformers. I'm a really big collector of 3 3/4 inch action figures,
Nice.
like your classic Star Wars, your X-Men lines, what else? G.I. Joe, and then anything really, really obscure, like my original 3 3/4 Battlestar Galactica, my Black Hole Vincent figure. I'm huge into robots, so I've got literally 75 astromech droids from Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! And then, I also saw you've got a whole bunch of Microman that you put up on your page, also.
Yeah. I just recently got into Microman. I've always known about it. I've always had an awareness of it. It isn't until recently that I really started getting into collecting. I did have 2 pieces when I was really young. I had an original Mego Biotron and a Mego Battle Station. And I don't know whatever came of those. I know they're lost to the winds of my youth. But I did recently, last year, pick up a reissue of Robot Man, which is basically Biotron.
Okay.
And it's one of the crowning achievements of my collection. I have since started troop building Biotrons. I have about 5 junkers that I put together. So
that's awesome.
I've become fairly obsessed with my micro collection. To tell you,
that's really cool. That's really cool. I'm excited to hear that, because I know a lot of folks out there, are super into Microman, which is basically like a cousin of Microchange, which obviously was kind of like before Transformers, along with the Diaclone.
Diaclone and Microchange. I mean, they did a whole episode on it on the Toys That Made Us, which is an excellent show, by the way.
It is. It's really great. It's very, very cool.
But, I love the connection. And for me, that is 90% of the love of Micro from Transformers, because to me, it's part of the same family. And it's very interplayable, and it feels special when I have my G1 Blaster and Perceptor with my some of my micro figures, because they belong together. That is the scale they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting just to see them and to see how Perceptor has a third secret mode that we didn't know about here in the States. He's got little treads on him that make him look like a tank. You transform him, and he can fit a Microman into him to make him a pilot.
Yeah, because like his chest flips down, and when you transform him, it's kind of like a cockpit. You know, kind of similar to like the Dinobots and the Insecticons, where those little compartments was not where to put your contraband. It was to put a little Microman figure in there. They were supposed to be cockpits.
That's from the Diaclone line,
exactly,
which are the small little barely 1-inch figures. So Microchange and Diaclone. I mean, it's so interwoven with the entire mythos of Transformers. You can't have them with one without the other, in my opinion.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes the history of the Transformers so interesting, is that, it was all of these different toy lines that Hasbro just happened to license from Japan, cobbled them all together, and went to the Marvel Comics folks, and they were like, can you make a fiction out of all this? And yeah, it's
Bob Budiansky.
Absolutely.
He was a genius. He's responsible for my love of Transformers. I am a huge G1 Marvel Comics fan. That comic book, I had a subscription from issue 6 all the way to issue 80, and I still have. I was missing maybe 10 issues, which over the course of the last couple of years I have completed. And I have a complete run. Almost, I would probably say 90% of that run are the original books that I had on subscription when I subscribed directly to Marvel.
Wow, that is really cool. And, some of those late run books were kind of hard to find because, the book was kind of on its way out. So print runs were pretty low. I mean, like issue 80 in particular is pretty tough to find at a decent price. That's an expensive book.
Yeah, I think that one I have actually 2 copies of.
Sweet. Very cool. So moving on, there were a couple other things I wanted to ask you about before we close out here, and obviously you can check out Magnus von Braun at his Atomic Mariachi robot table at Cybfest Northwest. Again, that is this Saturday, July 27th at the Kent Commons Community Center. Doors open for general admission at 11, and if you had the opportunity to pre-register, you can get in at 10. And again, tons of cool activities. Cybfestnw.com is the website. So the full schedule has been printed, including when you can see Scott and his Bumblebee car and all the panels and all of the other cool stuff. It's going to be an incredible show. So I wanted to ask you, kind of switching gears a little bit, when like I had mentioned, I had buzzed by the Atomic Mariachi table at Cybfest last year, and one of the things that really kind of burned it into my memory is you had a little portable DVD player, and you were showing Transformers the movie on a loop, and I for one, because I mean anybody that knows me knows that Transformers the movie is my jam, so much so to where I'm going to be doing a Transformers the movie panel to close out Cybfest. But yeah, that just brought a real smile to my face, and there was a couple times where I had to tell myself, okay, well, I need to move on because I caught myself just watching the movie.
Oh man, you know what? I feel real bad because one of our fellow vendors, I'm going to give a shout out to Mahalo Mike. I love the guy. I love him to death, and I had that movie on a loop all day. And he made mention that I forced, because he was sitting right across from us at the show, so he would see every hour and a half, you'd see Optimus Prime die.
Oh man! Well, and it's a short movie too, so that happens a lot.
I know, and he didn't mention anything until afterwards on Facebook. He made a little joke about it, and I felt, oh man, I'm gonna really have to change it up this year. I haven't quite decided what I'm gonna play. I may end up bringing one of my Japanese box sets, like Headmasters or Victory, and just put that one on and see how it goes.
That would be a lot of fun because there's a whole lot of folks that haven't seen a lot of that material. That would be a cool choice.
I'm thinking, what do you think? Headmasters, Victory, or what was the other one?
Zone?
Master Force?
Oh, yeah, the Super God Master Force.
Super God Master Force.
Me personally, if you're looking for my advice, I would go Headmasters because that's still G1 flavored. It's like you've got, the mostly Season 3 cast still running around, and then kind of after that, when we go into Super God Master Force and obviously Victory and then later Zone, it turns into just straight on anime, and it gets really crazy. It's great. It's really cool stuff, but yeah, it'd be one of those things where it would get people to kind of turn their heads. It's like, wait a minute,
what the heck?
That's Rodimus Prime, but I've never seen this episode. What is this? So yeah,
and there's so much story that happens in Headmasters. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it can get really intense in that particular series.
Yeah, definitely. It is, and again, that's why I like it. And maybe one of these days we'll get a decent sub, or at least a decent dub of those. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but so changing topics just a little bit before we wrap up here. One of the things that I noticed when I was connecting with you on social media after Cybfest Northwest is you're really into music and specifically metal. You were doing something, I forget what it was off the top of my head, but you were hosting like a metal show on like internet radio, and I was wondering if
man, that was last year. I totally forgot about that. That was on Gimme Radio. I was doing a one-shot progressive symphonic metal show.
Yeah.
Basically, they wanted to test the waters and see how well it went over. I got a really big response, but I don't know that enough people responded well to it that they wanted to make it a regular feature on that radio show. It's a really great internet radio. It's free. Mm-hmm. I've been a member of Gimme Radio for, I want to say, year and a half, almost 2 years now.
Oh, very cool. So yeah, I was just wondering if you wanted to pop any of that open. Is there particular music that you're passionate about or influences you? Anything you want to shout out on that side?
Well, I love almost any kind of music. There's very few genres that I'm not really averse to. Rap is kind of my kryptonite. I don't really groove on rap too much, but I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and there's a big underground scene there, or there was when I was very young. I grew up with listening to radio personalities like Joe Anthony, Lyle and Han. These were all Debbie Alcacer, the Electric Lady.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that cat, we wouldn't necessarily have gotten the exposure of the new wave of British metal at the time. So metal for me is where it's at. That's what I've been listening to pretty much my whole life, and it cradle to grave for me.
Awesome. Very cool. So this has been an absolute pleasure, kind of getting to know you a little better and hearing about the cool festivities that'll be happening at Cybfest this Saturday, and of course the Atomic Mariachi Robot Table, where this might be your last run. So if you wanna get some really cool stuff, you definitely gotta make it to the Kent Commons Community Center on Saturday. And before we part ways for now, could you let folks know where they can connect with you on the internets and the social medias, and anything else that you would like to shout out, and anything you'd like to promote?
Oh, sure. Check me out at Magnus von Braun at Facebook, and on Instagram, Magnus von Braun 666.
That's so metal. I love it. And actually, I apologize for interrupting, but where does the name come from, Magnus von Braun? Because that's,
Well, actually, it goes back to my love of science and rocketry. Have you ever heard of a man named Werner von Braun?
Yes, but I can't tell you what his claim to fame was. It's like the name sounds familiar.
He was an Axis power scientist who defected to the United States.
Oh.
And he was the one responsible for the V2 rocketry science that was going on at the time. Without that man, NASA wouldn't necessarily exist in the form we know it today.
Wow.
His full name, I believe, was Werner Magnus von Braun. And there's a lot of history there, especially for people who are really interested in science. When we went over there during World War II, when we got him and a whole cadre of Axis power scientists, we brought them over to the United States, and they became part of our think tank, science divisions here in the States. And there's a lot of interesting stories behind that. As far as the science goes, he's kind of the godfather of modern rocketry as we know it. And without his influence and research, we wouldn't necessarily be where we are today as far as the technology goes.
That's really cool. Very amazing history. I didn't know any of that. That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing.
I always encourage people to educate themselves. That's what one of the things we fail to forget. The internet is vast, and there's tons of resources there. We just gotta mine it and use it.
Absolutely. Educate yourself. I really appreciate that message. Well, again, this has been an absolute blast. Really enjoyed getting to know you and hearing all about all of the cool stuff and things. And before I let you go, any parting thoughts you'd like to throw out there?
The only thing I'll say is this: I can't wait for Saturday to come around. Y'all come by, see my table, Atomic Mariachi Roll, and I can't wait to see everybody there.
Very cool. Yeah, it's going to be so great. It's going to be really, really cool. I cannot wait for Saturday. I agree with you. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on the podcast with me, and we will see you on Saturday.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.
You too, brother.
You've heard what Mike thinks. Now tell him what you think on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mike Seibert Radio.
It's a great day to be talking to folks about Cybfest. I just got off with Magnus von Braun, and we're it's just really exciting getting all hyped up for Cybfest happening this Saturday.
Oh yes, I'm ready for it and can't wait to get it all started.
Excellent. Well, so as we go, why don't you go ahead and start off by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Michael Robinson. I am known when I do the selling at Sidefest. I'm known as I run a little business called Mahalo Mike's Blind Bag Bonanza. Basic premise of the idea is I take figures that I have in my collection that I just for one reason or another don't want to be in my collection anymore, and I blind bag them for an extraordinarily low price and let people randomly pick. They could be worth the price that they paid, or usually a lot more. I am been a collector of what I call big freaking robots because I don't collect just Transformers.
Okay.
I got old school Godaken and Chogoten figures. I have Iron Giant figures because, let's be honest, Iron Giant's one of the best films ever made.
Absolutely.
GoBots, Macross, Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot, and, of course, Gundam. It's always been something I've liked ever since when I was first little kid and saw the it's what's known in America as the Ambassador Gold, or not America, not Battle of the Planets. It's known in Japan as Ambassador Magma, but it was a live-action giant robot movie where a family of robots turned into rocket ships.
Oh, okay.
From there, yeah. From there, I went to a show called Force 5, which was like a couple different Japanese giant robot anime series, recut and redubbed for American audiences. It's one of those things where it's like, if you look at it today and you don't know about the history of it, it just makes you very cringy, but I grew up on it, so it's like always has a soft spot in my heart. But as I said, it's something I've always liked. I like the idea of robots, especially ones that can change shape, because it's like what someone once said on a commercial. It's like you get two toys in one.
Yeah.
And I've always been fascinated by how well an engineered a figure is. So that's I currently I have a study filled with figures, although not as filled right now as it has been in the past. And I work on the railroad and generally try to do my best to be a good person and be good to others as well.
Very cool. Well, honestly, Mike, I'm really excited to talk to you because like you and I have had like a couple different connections here and there, but haven't really had the opportunity to like actually like hang out and get to know each other and you know, just chat. I remember famously I ran into you at TFCon LA. I think you were just coming out of the pool and I was on my way to a panel. I was like, oh, hey, good to see you. Okay, bye. I gotta go. I'll find you later. Never did. It was a big con.
Oh yeah, it happens. It's, you know, I was glad we were able to at least say hi to each other. And yeah. My big thing is I like to meet other people that are enthusiastic about it and just see what they like and just get to pick their brains and let them pick mine if they need to.
Absolutely.
Although it's not much fun to pick in my brain. Let's be honest. It's not the biggest of things.
Oh, well, let's. So a couple things I want to talk about with you here. So, obviously, you're going to be a exhibitor, a vendor at Cybfest Northwest. Again, that's this Saturday, the 27th, and you know, it's the return of Mahalo Mike's big blind bag bonanza. And how long have you been a vendor at Cybfest?
This is now my second year, and because of the fact that I've pretty much have decimated my collection to the very best, what I consider my very favorites, probably will be my last one for some time.
Mm-hmm. Well,
anyway.
Well, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just, I was going to say, it's like I remembered even after last year because, I mean, Mahalo Mike's Blind Bag Bonanza was a huge hit at Cybfest last year, and I guess I hadn't realized that was your first year of doing it because it was just, you know, it was just a lot of fun at your table there, and I had remembered you saying it's like, well, you know, I went through pretty much all of my stuff, so yeah, I guess you know, maybe this is the end of Mahalo Mike, and then like, you know, like a phoenix from the ashes, you started posting on and off a couple months ago about like, well, hey, you know, I found some stuff. We're doing the bags and much to the delight of, you know, the Pacific Northwest Transformers fan community.
Yeah, well, I want to be quite honest. A part of the reason why I decided to actually do it this year was because you kind of put the idea back in me and say, hey, why don't you try again? I mean, it was great. It was fun. And truth be told, it is fun. I don't go into this like a lot of other sellers. It's more about the experience for me.
Sure.
If I wanted to, I could probably sell almost everything I got and that I sell at the convention for a lot more. But I don't, because it's more, I want to promote why I love this stuff. And I want people to enjoy themselves. I want people to have fun. I don't want them to think of this as an investment. I want them to think of something that they can have and play with if they want. They can display if they want and enjoy themselves with it. Mm-hmm. And it's something you don't see very often anymore because everybody's like, oh, it's all about the money. And it's like, yeah, I get that. But I'm more about I want people to have fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes as collectors, we forget that this is a hobby, and hobbies are supposed to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's all these people. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it on different groups and different get-togethers. One thing people get all mad about is if there's a re-release, all of a sudden, their collection's worth nothing. And it's like, I never went into this thinking that it was an investment. I have friends of mine that freak out, I kid you not, when I open things up and pull them out. I'm one of those types. I have to, in general, pull the item out and play with it. There's some items I don't pull out, and it's not because I'm trying to save them for later. It's just I didn't have room for them at the time. But I wanted to make sure I got them because they were something I liked. And that's what it's about. It's about enjoying. I have more than just toy figures. I have statues. I have stuff like that. It's about the enjoyment of the items. And, yeah, it's fun and dandy to enjoy it all by yourself, but sometimes you need to share it. And sometimes you need to let others enjoy that as well. And that's where this all came from.
Yeah, because I remember a story you had shared, coming out of last year's show, and I don't remember what the figure was, but it was something where it was like, it was like a younger person, they got a blind bag, and they got like a super valuable third party figure, and it like turned out to be like their first third party figure. And
I can't remember what figure it was, but and it's stuff like that, and that's actually one of the things I'm going to try to implement more this year. Is one of the things I want to do is I'm going to ask people if they want to, I'm going to ask if they want to open it up at the table, and if they really like it and stuff, hey, maybe can I take a picture and I can share it with the people in several different groups and just show people having fun with this.
Yeah, and it's like you hit on it. It's the joy of collecting, and it's the fun of collecting. That's and what I like especially is, I like stuff, but I think I prefer my stuff with a story. So like for example, it's like in other episodes of my podcast, I've talked about one of the best Christmas presents I ever got was I got Fortress Maximus for Christmas in 1987. I thought the box was a Nintendo. I opened it up, turned out it was Fort Max, and still is one of my, and it's because of that memory attached to it. And what I like about Mahalo Mike's Blind Bag Bonanza is that you get that story and that you're sharing. It's like, hey, I got this third party huffer that I never knew I wanted, but man, this is a really cool figure, and I got it out of a blind bag at Cybfest, and just having that cool story is just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I also will bore people with the droning stories of actually where most of the figures I got came from.
Right.
And if there's a little bit of a story reason why I don't have it or why I'm not keeping it, I'll let them know if they are interested. And, sometimes I actually succeed in entertaining them.
I gotta tell you, Mike, I love your sense of humor. It's very droll and dry wit too. I just love talking to you, and it's very similar to our interactions on social media too. It's just I love you, man. That you're awesome.
Thank you. I've tried very hard to just bring something a little bit better to the world. Yeah, and it sounds so hokey, but the fact of the matter is, I'm one of those, it's fun, a little tangent if I may.
Sure.
I'm one of those that grew up with Mr. Rogers, Jim Henson, and all that.
Yeah.
And JP Patches. And those people formed who I am at my core. I try not to be a malicious person. I try to be very open to everybody. And I believe that you should try to be good to help others be good.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds hokey and it sounds silly, but the fact of the matter is, that's what I believe.
Yeah, and as I said, that's as noble as it is sweet, and I think we need more of that in this world. Especially the way things are today. I think it was just this morning I watched the trailer for the Tom Hanks Mr. Rogers movie. I forget what the title of it is, but yeah, it's just like the theater owners have got to like hand out boxes of tissues, Kleenex when people go to see that movie, because there's not going to be a dry eye in the house. That I was getting choked up just watching it.
Yeah, I'm going to be quite honest. This is going to be on my list of movies. I really can't watch it with anybody else unless I really, really trust them or care about them.
Sure. Yeah, because
it looks amazing, and I saw, and that's kind of, I've been thinking about that, and as I said, there's a show, a series on YouTube that was talking about the history of Jim Henson.
Yeah,
and I really did not want to watch the last episode because I knew it was coming. I'm old. I actually remember being in high school right before I graduated. It was actually about a month before I graduated when I heard the news.
Oh, yeah.
And it was weird because all these, it was, you're a teenager, you're a senior. Most people in the class that actually heard about it, they got teared up. Mm-hmm. Because, you try to be as cool as you can, but you hear something like that, someone that touched your life that way, you can't help it.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry for being maudlin about that for a second.
No, and I appreciate you bringing that up because I see you posting about Jim Henson and about the documentary quite often. So and that's another one of those folks that the world is just a little less happy now, with a little less bright without folks like that in the world. So let's kind of flip on the ear a little bit and talk about stuff that will make folks happy, and so there's two different styles of blind bags that Mahalo Mike will have at the table. Do you want to talk about the two different levels and maybe kind of talk about the without spoiling anything, maybe like some of the type of stuff that folks might encounter if they take the blind bag challenge?
Yes, I will gladly do that. There is, much like I did last year, the lower level bag, not quality but price,
right,
is there will be $5 bags, and those are mainly, for the most part, chug size figures. But there are several that are a little bit larger than that. Most of those, in general, run between Generation 1 up to the current run of Transformers Hasbro lines. But there are a few third-party figures, and there are a few surprises in there that I tried to do. As I said, I in general with my bags, I try not to. They may not have all their accessories 100%.
Sure.
I tend to be notoriously bad for losing missiles. But one of the things I'm actually doing with this is I actually have been digging around, finding all my spare weapons and stuff that I don't have any figures that I know attached to them. And I'm bringing them, and if people see a missile that they need for a blind bag, or if they just see a missile they need for a figure that they have, feel free to grab it. It's not doing anything other than gathering dust in my drawer, so I might as well share it. And so that's what the $30 bag, or the $5 bags. Mm-hmm. The other size bag I'm having is a $30 bag, and this became something out of necessity.
Okay.
Because I realized I had two options. I could put everything as a $5 bag, limit what I was going to put out there, and there are some things, or figure sets, that really probably should not be broken up. That may be a hint at what you may find.
Right.
And so I figured, okay, if I'm going to do that, I'll be honest, I was thinking maybe $50 bag, but then I'm like going,
sure,
okay, that ruins what I was trying for. And plus the fact of the matter is, if I sell them for $50 and nobody buys them, nothing's done. Nothing changes. So I put them at $30, which I feel is a good, nice, low price, and enough for people to take a chance, but enough money to make it feel like it's worthwhile.
Right.
And in there, there will be there will be bigger figures, obviously, because the size of the bags are about the size of grocery bags compared to sandwich bags or lunch bags. And as I said, there is going to be a lot more variety in there. There will be some bags that will have, as I said, third parties, a very common thing. Again, G1 figures, some figures that are in boxes, because as I said, some figures I just wasn't able to get out of the boxes. And there's, as I said, a large variety. And some of them are worth more than others, which that's part of what makes it. Because you might get a figure that's worth about $40 or something from a $30 bag. you may get a figure that's worth possibly over 100.
Wow.
It's just. Oh, I'm not giving away anything with that, by the way, but you may want to, again, draw your own conclusions. And here's the one rule I do have that will be enforced is you can look at the bags, but you can't pick up the bags before you purchase. And the reason why I did that last year what I did was I padded the bags to make everything look the same.
Right.
Because a lot of people equate weight with how much a figure's value is to them.
Sure.
And this year I decided to go the opposite and not add any padding whatsoever. So there will be some bags that are really big, full-looking, and they may be with, like I say, a Transformers Energon figure or something, for example, because they usually had big figures.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a bag that looks like it doesn't have anything in it, and it could be, say, something from, random choice, something from the Transformers Collectors Club.
Whoa.
Which, if you've ever followed that, those are very hard to find, but they aren't usually that big. But again, as I said, random choices. And I just wanted to give people that chance. It's like, and as I said, okay, one of the things I'm also implementing, and I did it last year, but I'm going to make sure I tell people is that if you don't like what you pick, you can either get your money back, and I'll put it back in a bag and put it back out there, or you can pick again.
Okay.
Because ultimately, it's not me making a sale as it is, I want you to have something you may enjoy.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be some figures that people may like and some people won't. A perfect example is one of the things I'm also implementing this year, I kind of started it last year, but I figured I'm going to do it proper this year, is what I call the blue light specials. Based on the old Kmart ad way back in the day when Kmart was around.
The blue light special.
Yes, and it's going to be basically a figure that's going to be out, and it's at a price that is not one of the bag prices for its own reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some figures that I know people are really excited over seeing, and there's ones that are a little bit more obscure, like, again, going back to the TF Transformer Collectors Club, I have one of the last two sets they made, which was a combiner called Thunder Mayhem.
Right.
And that figure is one of the two hardest combiner sets made by Hasbro to get. And the fact is, I'm not going to be heartbroken if nobody buys it, but I'm sure people put it more proudly on display that know what it is and want it. But there's going to be Joe Blow, the average person's going to see it and saying, why would I want that? And that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to let people pick what they choose, ultimately what they want, but it's all from my varied taste.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those people that doesn't collect a specific size or a specific line. There's very few lines of figures I don't get or I don't collect. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Beast Wars, just because I've always been more of a truck, not monkey type of guy. But, there's figures I do have of Beast Wars or Beast Machines that I do like. And it's like even with all the G1 Style S figures, I don't collect every figure. I don't need to be a completionist. For example, I happen to prefer Skywarp and Thrust over all the other Seekers.
Okay.
There's ones I'll collect some of, but it's like, for example, I don't really like Dirge or Ramjet or Thundercracker as much. And there's people that really like it. So if I put some of those in there in my bags, someone's going to find that and think it's the greatest thing in the world.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because
that's what it is.
Yeah, well, and we all in our various collections, we all suffer from shifting tastes. It's like I used to be super into this, but now I'm not. I'm kind of finding a little bit of that with myself being on the opposite end. Like I've recently gotten into collecting alternators from like the early 2000s, and they're kind of like this kind of sort of like forgotten line of these licensed vehicle toys that really, I had a really great conversation with some folks at TFCon Toronto who I bought a couple off of, and we were just grooving on it, saying like, well, wait a sec, without the engineering and official licensing for alternators, you don't get to Masterpiece. It's like it's kind of like a necessary step, but yet the line, because of the character choice was really weird, and the design aesthetic is really strange. I mean they're weird little figures, but what I've discovered is that I really like them. I've got like a serious affection for them with rubber tires and again the official licensing, which was one of the things that really drew me to Transformers to begin with. It's like I liked that the robots looked like cars. You could see all like the car bits on them, and doors that flipped out into wings, and that's the design aesthetic I've always appreciated about Transformers, and I don't remember how I got there. I was just shifting interests. It's like, so a lot of folks have kind of like a lot of folks have alternators that are kind of sitting there in their collection collecting dust. And I'm just like, oh, I'll take those off of you at a good price. So there's a weird recycling nature to toy collecting. It's like stuff that you've gotten tired of is probably something that maybe like a new collector or a collector looking for something different is their jam, something they're into.
Exactly. And before I can say what I was going to say off that, I have to say one of my favorite figures is my alternator Helm.
Yes.
That figure is amazing. And,
yeah.
I mean, I know they got the Masterpiece figures out, but he is still the high bar I set for that character.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and my favorite thing about him is that he's got seats for feet. He's got like Dr. Scholl's insoles. He's got padded shoes. So yeah,
exactly.
Alternator's Hounds has some really good orthotics going on, but yeah, it was like it was.
And the thing what's cool about the alternators is they weren't all winners. Let's be honest.
There's some turds in that line.
Yeah, I mean, because of the fact I like the car and I like the figure, I have the Wheeljack. Let's be honest, it's not the best of figures. But it's still, because Wheeljack was one of the first ever G1 figures I ever had. In fact, he was the first one I ever bought.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I actually have one of my little displays I have in my living room. Yeah, it's not too geeky. Is I have basically a Masterpiece, a Combiner Wars, and a Generation 1 version figure of Blue Streak, who was my first ever Transformer I ever saw and played with. Wheeljack, who was the first ever figure I bought, and then Mirage, who was the second ever figure I bought.
That's cool.
And they're just a little display, and people take a look. Oh, that's kind of cool. Why'd you do it this way? And I'll tell them, they're like, well, that's actually kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
So, but no, you were right about how one person's you may grow out of an item, and it may inspire someone else. And it's like one of the things I have is I have a couple friends who have little kids. And one of the things I do is I have figures that are not really overtly complex of that. I give them to them, and they love them.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love the fact to get to see how happy they are and excited that he's got these little robot figures, and they're just like, it's the greatest thing ever. It's like, that's it. That's the idea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are toys. They should be fun.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like these bad cube figures, except I do own two, that are just like, they're exercises in frustration. I want fun. I want enjoyable.
Yeah.
As I remember the big brouhaha about the open and play Springer figure that came out that they did. And people are going, oh, it's this tube. It's not that good. It's not the best maybe to say compared to a fan's toy version of the figure, but the fact of the matter is, I'm not a big Springer fan, but I find myself playing with this thing when I'm sitting on a computer waiting for something to download.
Ah, okay.
Just because it's interesting. It's not too complex, and the forms are fun to just kind of hold and make little weird helicopters playing with them.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And like I said, I mean, I think sometimes as jaded toy collectors and fans, I think sometimes we kind of lose touch on that. You know, I just I recently just saw Toy Story 4, and anytime I watch one of those movies, I'm filled with existential dread. But the thing that reminds me is just kind of like and this sounds dumb, but this is kind of like, you know, you and I having this kind of conversation. You know, it's the magic of toys. You know, I mean, there is something transportative about a plaything that, you know, it puts you in a different headspace, and, you know, and in the case of Transformers, you know, it connects you with one of the most welcoming and inclusive and fun fandoms out there.
Yeah, because let's be honest, for a long time, a lot of us were made fun of, and you know, hey, nowadays it's like people love this stuff, even though we do all tend to still hate Michael Bay Transformer figures, or movies, not the figures so much, because I actually like some of the figures.
Gotcha.
But no, it's just, you know, I'm kidding, by the way. I'm not. I don't really like the Bay movies, but that's just personal preference. But no, it's just the fact of the matter is, toys in general connect us, because 99% of the people in the world have had some way or another, and because of the way the world is, a lot of people probably one way or another recognize some of the stuff.
Sure.
And you know, I'm not one of those types that likes to go, oh, well, you like this, but it's not that. That's not the best one. You know, hey, people like different things of the same property.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are people that love the Cybertron line, for example, and there's people who like as I said, Beast Wars. You know, but the fact of the matter is, we still, in the end, we all still love the same thing in general, and we have stuff to talk about with it.
Right.
There's some rivalries and stuff, but it's more, I think in general, it's more good-natured, because it's like, you know, I make fun, for example, earlier I was kind of making fun of Beast Wars stuff, but the fact of the matter is, I may make fun of some of that stuff, but the fact people like it, and I'm happy that they like that, because it gives them something to talk about, gives them something to do, gives them something to have fun with. And that's all that matters.
Absolutely. And you're totally right, because I've had a very similar experience myself back when I was not as connected to the fandom. You know, it's like I've nursed a pretty hard grudge against those Michael Bay movies. But what I've learned is that, you know, friends that I've connected with, you know, because of like, you know, their age or when they entered the fandom or whatever, it's like that's their jam. And I gotta respect that and just be like, well, that's not my thing, but I appreciate that it's your thing. You know, it's like, you know, kind of like I've landed on this kind of like live and let live approach that I don't think I had when I was kind of more withdrawn from the fandom at large.
Yeah. And as I said, I may not be the biggest fan of the movies per se.
Sure.
But there are several of the figures that I think are some of the best design figures that they did. I mean, a perfect example, while I don't have the original version of the figure anymore from Hasbro themselves, the Hound from Age of Extinction was amazing. Mm-hmm. You know, I call him Bulkhead.
Right.
It was
exactly.
just because of the way it just the engineering was great to turn a vehicle that was relatively skinny and small into a big John Goodman-esque looking, or back in the day, John Goodman-esque looking character.
Right.
And yeah, and it's just stuff like that's amazing. I liked how they made Jetfire. You know, I mean, yeah, everybody expects the white Cybertronian jet or a Macross jet, but the fact is, they took what was always considered one of the coolest of the jets when I was growing up as a kid, mm-hmm. and made it into a cool looking figure.
Yeah,
and I have to like that. And they took the added step on some of the, I don't know if they do it on all of them, but the one from Dark of the Moon made it so it can combine with Optimus Prime. That was a cool feature. That's one of those things that's like, okay, these guys are taking chances. They may not be as aesthetically pleasing as some of the other figures are, but they're still well designed, well engineered, and there's some that I just find definitely on my shelves along with some of the older ones.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what you like.
Exactly. And that's that, and that's what just makes it so fun, is that, you know, like I've said this so many times on podcasts where my listeners are probably like just kind of rolling their eyes, but in Transformers, I mean, there's something for everybody, and I think that's what makes it kind of special.
Yeah, and as I said, it's like I don't understand why some people get mad because you don't like it in the way they like it. This is with any genre, with any fandom or hobbydom or what have you. You know, I love the IDW's More Than Meet the Eye series.
Oh, sure.
I thought it was probably one of the best and our best comic book series I've read in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going through and I've been buying all the collected works because I didn't read the main line as much, but the More Than Meets the Eye was brilliant. And I'm going to say something that some people think is just blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
How they treated Megatron was probably the best portrayal of the character I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And because it touched upon the roots that they set up in the old stories of what he originally was trying for,
mm-hmm.
and that they made him more than just a mustache twirling villain. And
Exactly.
I actually felt bad when the series ended, and you see, well, you are implied at what his final fate is.
Correct.
And part of you's going, okay, we know he did this, but did he deserve that?
Yeah, and it makes it very thought provoking on terms of, like, you know, rehabilitation and, you know, just I mean, again, More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light are just rich with those mature themes, and so I was getting those books because I'm a Transformers fan, but there was a time where I stepped back and I was like, even if I wasn't into Transformers, I would love this series because it's excellent science fiction.
Exactly.
And it does what good sci-fi is supposed to do. It's like, you know, it takes these abstract characters and uses that as a lens to look at what's going on in society and make you think about a thing or two. And what I enjoy the most about that run of comics is just how progressive they are, you know, and how it's really kicked the door open for, you know, an entire arm of the fandom that looks nothing like us, you know, and
Exactly.
I love that. I love being a part of this fandom and sharing that fandom.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, one of the things I also liked, and I'm kind of sad about it, but I'm glad to see companies like MMC take care of it, is they didn't follow just what the toy line was, which is what in the main storyline, and of course the comic or the cartoons and stuff. They had to push what the figure or what toy was coming out. And let's be honest, I'm not trying to be cynical or anything, but what they did, but at Lost Light, no, there's figures that we'll probably never see.
Yeah,
based on characters in there, but it was the characters I liked, and yeah, there's stuff there that some people may not like because it doesn't fit with their vision of what everything is. But the fact is, it answered questions that kind of needed answering,
mm-hmm.
and it made sense. And it's like, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, there's people that go, well, robots don't have gender anyway, for example. And it's like, they sort of do.
Yeah, I mean,
they kind of introduced that and stuff. It's like, and if they're these sentient beings that have been shown in the past to not be just pure logic, they're going to have emotional reactions, and it's not just negative ones.
Right.
So you have to roll with that. And if you see characters that are considered both quote unquote male, and they care about each other, love each other, it's like, you know what, it fits.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not like there was many fembots when all this stuff started. Now they're expanding it, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, and it's, for example, one of the things I always thought was some of the more subtle touches was the fact that you kind of get to realize that these characters you think are these all, for lack of a better term, masculine, gung-ho fighting robots,
mm-hmm.
don't see themselves as guys.
Right. Yeah.
A perfect example is you look at Cyclonus, or even better, World.
Mm-hmm.
They consider their avatars were female.
Correct. Right.
Which I mean, you don't know if they're female or if they feel they're female. It's just, it was who they felt they were being, who they were supposed to be.
Exactly.
And I like that.
Yeah, and again, you know, and just one thing is just like a quick PSA for other folks listening out there. You know, I personally sing the praises of More Than Meets the Eye constantly. It's, you know, outside of the 86 movie, it's probably my favorite Transformers fiction. But I've got a buddy, Aaron, one of the hosts from the Autopod Decepticast. He's recently kind of gone back from the start of, kind of the phase 2 of the IDW comics, with kind of like the parallel series of Robots in Disguise and More Than Meets the Eye. And he, through our interactions, I keep being reminded that, RID was really good also. Don't sleep on that series. There's a lot of intrigue and subtlety and nuance and just as progressive of storytellings too. I mean, they portray Thundercracker as a struggling screenwriter, which I think is like one of the coolest character turns that is a lot of fun. You could get a lot of material out of that.
Yeah, I actually, as I said, I've been collecting the collected IDW books, which basically puts both series and the miniseries in the preferred reading order. So that's all in there, which is great.
So you're getting the big ones then, I'm
getting the big ones.
Oh, very cool. I would love to read it like that because I read everything off of the shelf, and I've got a couple trades, that I got autographs on, but yeah, for the most part, I read it kind of like as it happened. So it would be kind of cool to go back in, kind of IDW's quote unquote preferred reading order to kind of try to experience it that way.
Yeah, it's actually. It does flesh things out a lot, and they're not perfect. I actually one of the volumes I got is missing about 3 pages. It was a printing error, so I had to break down and buy one of the trades of it to complete it. But in general, it's great. The only thing that stinks is the fact that they're just releasing them so slowly. And I know we're getting towards the end of the original run, or the original run before they did the reboot earlier this year, or was it late last year? And so I know they're kind of having to let this finish out or try to get things going for as long as possible, keep everything going. But it's like, come on, we're getting towards the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And but again, the early stuff is really good also. But yeah, you're right. It really heats up towards the end of the run there. And you know what, Mike, I could chat comics and Transformers and all of that stuff with you as much as the day is long, but I think we should probably kind of cap things off for now, because like I said, we could talk for literally hours. So before we part ways for now, could you let folks know where we can connect with you on the internet and what social medias we can connect with you on out there on the interwebs?
Okay. Well, I'll be quite honest. I don't use as much as the social media as I once did because I've kind of really realized it's not the best of places to make yourself stay sane.
True.
However, on the Facebook, I do have Michael Scott Robinson, my personal profile. I also am on the Pacific Northwest Transformers group. I am in Atomic Mariachi Robots group, which is done by Magnus, pardon me. And I'm in a couple other Transformer-related groups, and I'm in actually one group that's there's not many people in it, but it's one of the oldest groups that I've been on, was what we call the SW1 group, which is Star Wars Chat Room 1 from the Yahoo Messenger days.
Oh, cool.
We all found each other on Facebook. And we all get together, and we still talk occasionally about Star Wars, but rule number 1 of Star Wars Chat Room was you don't talk about Star Wars.
Right.
So we just talk to each other. And that's mainly where you can see me. I'd show you my YouTube channel, but it's literally only got 3 videos.
Okay.
And they were basically some Team Fortress 2 stuff I did. I don't have as big of a presence. I'm on Instagram, but I don't do much on that either. Honestly, the best way to get in touch with me is just through Facebook.
Okay. Very cool. And because I know you've been in those groups that we just talked about on Facebook, you've been posting teaser images of, the various blue light specials. And, I'm looking at a picture of a queen size bed full of blind bags and a big smiling face with your awesome Aloha shirt. And that's awesome. So yeah, don't miss Mahalo Mike's blind Blind Bag Bonanza at Cybfest Northwest. Again, that is happening this Saturday, July 27th at the Kent Commons Community Center, right across the street from the Showware Center. That is going to be a whole lot of fun. And again, if you find yourself by Mahalo Mike's table, just enjoy the stories. It's a really fun time, and it was really, for me, one of my big highlights of going to Cybfest Northwest last year, because it was just something unexpected. I was like, oh hey, it's blind bags. All right, this is cool, and yeah, it was just great fun. So good on you for finding a way to make it happen again this year.
As I said, thank you for giving me basically the kick in the pants to do it.
I'll be honest with you, Mike. I had no idea that I was influential in that. I was just singing your praises and giving you a shout out. So yeah.
Hey, if I want to get more praises, I got to do it again.
There it is. Well, Mike, this has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and hearing your stories, and of course talking about the Blind Bag Bonanza at Cybfest. And before we part ways for now, any parting thoughts you'd like to share with the audience that we may not have touched on yet? As
I said, respect other people and how they follow their fandom.
Mm-hmm.
There's no wrong answers in this. There's no guidebook, and just enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. Well, and it's kind of like the gospel of Will Wheaton, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
So very cool. All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on with me here for this special Cybfest Extravaganza podcast, and we'll see you on Saturday. Okay.
All righty. I'll be waiting.
All right. Cool. Have a great night, man. We'll talk again soon.
You take care, and because I gotta say it, mahalo.
You've been listening to the Mike Seibert Radio Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at Mike Seibert Radio. Email us at mikeseibertradio@gmail.com. The spelling on that, of course, is SEIBERT. Call into the voicemail hotline at 231-224-MIKE. Once again, that's 231-224-6453. Special thanks to Michael Geisler for our theme music. For more like it, check out ByDoorMusic.com. This has been a Mike Seibert radio production.